Ooh, okay, I think that's it for that bit. Now, just to get my hands on a DeLorean. Here's an interesting question for you. If you had a time machine, would you go forwards or would you go backwards? Take a look at what was or see what's yet to be. I think a lot of us would probably choose to go to the future, wouldn't we? We'd all love to know what's going to happen because we don't know. We know what happened in the past, of course, but it's difficult to imagine what hasn't happened yet in a lot of ways, isn't it? And even harder really to predict what's going to happen based on where we are right now, especially at times of uncertainty, just like what we're going through, essentially. For crypto, the questions you might try to answer are maybe a little bit obvious. Where's the price of Bitcoin going? How successful will Ethereum's move to proof of stake be? Did my garbage Pale Kids NFT end up making me millions? Also, are people still playing Axie Infinity? Crypto by its very nature is intrinsically about the future. Putting money into it is betting on that version of the future, a future where digital assets are at the heart of our economy and of our society. And this has been a key theme at the Start Me Up HK Festival this week, so we're going to explore a little bit of the things that have come out of that with Maya Vucinovic. She's the founder and CEO of O Group and has been speaking at the festival about the evolution of digital currencies. So, Maya, where do we currently stand in this crypto timeline as far as you're concerned? How close are we to seeing traditional finance being overtaken by DeFi?
I think a lot of people want to know if that's the case, particularly younger folks that have been in the space for only the last couple of years and that are coming in. I think it's not, right? Depending on who you ask, it's fortunate or unfortunate. But I think we still have a very long way to go because if you look at the blockchain technology itself, it still has quite an evolution to make. And also from the kind of consumer protection status as well. So adoption status, infrastructure layer, right, middle layer of these technologies and of the protocols, and then on the applications built on them. So I think we are still really far away from the massive adoption.
Maya, you've got a lot of experience with technology changing lives from your involvement in mobile payment platform adoption in Africa and Latin America in the early 2000s. What is needed, based on your opinion, in order to broaden adoption of crypto right now?
You're right. I come at it from the mobile development world, right, in emerging markets. And that kind of gave me a broader insight into how long it takes for something like this to evolve, because obviously there are different forces here at play, right? I mean, there are large financial institutions and governments who ran this way for many years. And it's really hard to kind of shake up that system, although some of the folks in the crypto space would like that to be shaken up immediately. I do think it's a bit of evolution in from a technological point of view, but also from kind of governments saying, hey, look, we've got to allow a broader adoption of this, or maybe smart contracts, right, to be implemented in some of the back offices of some of the businesses to allow decentralization, right? Because even if you look at the latest examples of what has happened in crypto, I mean, the smart contracts themselves have held up really well in terms of accountability and in terms of tech. But it's the kind of CeFi platforms of Celsius of the world and Voyagers, that have kind of been mismanaged in a sense to kind of create this. So I do think that is there needs to be regulation and a stronger consumer protection for sure, because a lot of folks are coming into this without not knowing anything. And at the end, it's the retail that gets the burn.
Now, countries like the Philippines have almost 1 in 5 people holding crypto, but almost half of their population remains unbanked. How important is financial inclusion in this development of digital currencies?
I've lived for 10 years in emerging markets, and that's kind of where I built up my career. So I completely understand that. And I see the larger pool in emerging markets, 100%. And for people not to trust their previous banking system and the current banking system. So they're relying more and more on kind of saying, I'll manage my money. I want access to my money. I want access to things. I want to be rewarded for what I do. I want to own for what I do. And even if you look at NFTs, right? I mean, you can, in some of the countries in Asia, right, where governments are censoring you based on your credit score, but they can censor you based on kind of NFTs you own, or based on cryptocurrencies you own, or based on your behavior, right? And that's a possibility too. Now, at the same time, as I said, it's unfortunate that a lot of times in these places where they do hold the crypto, they, like in cases of El Salvador, right, a lot of those people, regular people, have not really benefited from holding that, and in other places as well. So there's got to be a mechanism of stable coins, for example, which I've seen work really well in these markets, such as Reserve, for example. And I think more education needs to be done on what can people do once they hold that crypto, right? What can people do once they start playing these games, but they leave over here a possibility of career and everything else, but they're going to play a game, and then after a year they lose everything because a couple of VCs have gotten together and dumped everything on the retail. So it's a bit of a challenge.
Maya, listen, another way of opening up the crypto space to a wider audience is the concept of fractionalization, essentially allowing investors to own a piece of a bigger pie. Can you explain how that works a bit more and tell us what advantages it confers?
Fractionalization just means you've own fraction of a particular asset that usually could not be, decompartmentalized and split into pieces for many owners. And that could be real estate, that could be cars, that could be, stocks and bonds, that could be large companies, that could be many things that people want to own a small piece of because they can't afford $10,000 or $20 or $1 million as an investment. So they want to own $20 or something, right? I think that is still a challenge in terms of crypto. This is going to take over a decade, if not more, for it to actually reach a mass scale. And you're seeing platforms talk about real estate and other things in terms of fractionalization for sure. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to happen at some point. But we're still very far away from that, because if you just look at the, access of kind of blockchain infrastructure and the middle layer of the blockchain, where we still have to focus on building that. I mean, APIs and, tools for devs and security of one's assets, right? That has to be there before anything else moves.
And meanwhile, we've got governments like China's making huge strides towards the issuance of CBDCs. At the same time, regulators are racing to protect investors, in particular in the wake of everything that happened with Terra Luna. As far as you're concerned, what's the next big development for digital currencies? What's driving that forward, but what's also holding it back?
Governments will want, to your point, either CBDCs or some other form of traceability through digital currencies. I think that's going to be a big innovation. NFTs are going to take an interesting growth, I think, and I believe. And I do think what's holding a lot of it back depends, right? If you look at gaming, that's growing in some sense, right? Massively. If you look at some of the protocols like Near and, others in Solana, it's growing massively because of its either speed or the cost, which is very cheap, or the ease of use, right? And folks are really kind of drawn to that, which is normal, right? Because crypto, as it is, it's very hard to use, very hard to understand how you self-custody, how you transfer, all of this staking, and it's expensive to do it on your own, and etc. So I think those are some of the biggest developments I'm looking out to. I mean, also ZK Snarks, right? ZK rollups. I mean, that's something you're going to start to see in the next year or so. So all of those things.
All right, thanks so much for joining us, Maya Vucinovic of O Group, talking to us then. And finally, a reminder that Forkast's next Crypto Rising live stream event is nearly upon us. It happens 9 p.m. Eastern, September 21st, 9 a.m. Hong Kong time, September 22nd. Some of Asia's industry leaders and regulators will be sitting down with Forkast Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau to discuss the future and the challenges of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, as well as digital assets more broadly. All right, that's it from us. Like and subscribe to this video for more like it, and let us know your thoughts on what's happening in the comments.